Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do a labor credit. On this part, you can see that I have on order a trunk lid, and it's an LKQ used part. So the LKQ company walks through the door, has a trunk lid, there's some damage on it, but you know what, we really need this, and we can go ahead and take care of the damage. So when we call the LKQ company to see if there's something they can do to help us out on the repair necessary on the damage, they're going to go ahead and give us $100. So we have to receive the part first in order to be able to post a labor credit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to receive the part for the amount of money that we had originally agreed on. So we're going to go ahead and put the invoice number in and the amount, which is $479, and at this time we could scan the invoice. Once we scan the invoice, we'll hit OK. Now we've received the part. Now on that received part, obviously we need to post a credit. So we're going to go down to labor credit by right-clicking on the part, and we're going to hit labor credit. Now from the vendor, you can see it's the LKQ, we need to give the amount that they're going to be returning us to post a credit. So that's going to be $100. Now in the memo, you may end up having a quote number or whatever the case may be. We're just going to make it quote 67. And as you can see, we're going to post a body labor of 1.8 hours, which is going to be our labor rate, so that we can go ahead and put that on the line item automatically, so that the technician that repairs the vehicle will have credit of 1.8 for doing the repair, and we will also be waiting for a credit return to come back to us so that we can take back the credit and post it to our account. So in this being said, we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, I have here a labor credit that when the LKQ company sends us the credit, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and check mark in the box, and we're going to drag and drop up to credit return. At this time, we can receive the credit for the $100. And I'm going to post it, and now we've received the credit. Thank you.
With questions and help that we're providing, I created Peak Performance Coaching. One of the most common responses that I was getting back from the customers that came to us was related to the fact that the webinars were wanting them to be online for an extended period of time so customers could go back and re-listen, learn, and go through the topics that were covered. Well, as we looked into, investigating into the possibilities and trying to see what we could offer for the webinar, we basically found that there's some real challenges due to the bandwidth and length of a webinar, as well as the security to get logins and to get people into the system to be able to watch it. So what we came up with is, in addition to that, was instances where there were more questions on what the customer desired, and it wasn't always needed that they see the entire webinar, but more related to having detailed and available access to those topics that they wanted to share with staff members that weren't able to attend. So that's where the Peak Performance is going to provide you with that option. So beginning next week, you will have access to our secure YouTube channel and to view exactly what I described. You will receive an outline of what was covered in the topics today with a directed reference to where you can watch a more detailed, sometimes short, but a more detailed YouTube video about that particular topic. So, what that's basically giving you is that these videos are going to cover both software utilization as well as how to use it, but it's going to allow the attendees for the webinars to have the ability to be able to share with the staff members that couldn't attend those particular topics of interest. And so that will be beginning next week with some instructions on how to get that logged in, and that library will continue to grow. and it already will be able to contain some more basics about setup, the how-to questions that are very commonly addressed to us here at Summit, myself, when I get specific calls from the customer. I'll be constantly adding videos to the site as we perform more and more of the utilization audits that will be performed by myself or your business development manager in your territory, to look at how you as individuals are utilizing the software and coming up to what are the areas that are most commonly in need of providing you with assistance or direction to utilize your investment more fully. The other concern that was covered was basically the speed and detail that I cruised through these webinars. I wanted to provide last year, we just try and push as much information into that 1 hour that was presented as possible because I wanted to take up the smallest amounts of your very, very busy day. What I did this year was a little different because as subscribers, most everyone here is a subscriber to Peak Performance, is that by having access to the videos, I can more outline a steady pace, limit the webinars to always be completed in less than an hour. My goal is to get them closer to 45 minutes so that your staff has basically an hour from the time that they break from their desk to begin their learning lunch to get back to their desk to be productive, to keep it within that hour time frame. The webinars, the videos that are going to be outlined where you can go look for the more detailed information, of course, are going to be available 24/7 on the YouTube channel because a number of customers are asking, can it be available after hours, either early in the morning or late in the day, and that's where the webinars come in. So what we're going to cover today is a couple of bits and pieces of both new features and the new look of the 734, as well as those things that invariably I get on the phone with the customer and I'm working with them on some topics and I bring something up that's in the software, but they look at it and say, how long has that been there? Why don't I know that? When did that come up? I didn't know that it would do that. So I'm trying to get as many of those as possible in today's video just as a refresher to save you some mouse clicks, to show you some new things that are different in the system, and also kind of hopefully tie that in and give you a taste of the way to be able to send people to the video next week and online on the YouTube channel to help your whole staff. So, one of the big improvements to the system is that in the media tab, we have changed its look. Customers that are utilizing the system for their images inside of media, they were finding that the first screen, as you used to select media, you would end up and have to load all of the videos into this first available screen. Now, that was something that was been there since the beginning, but yet this efficiency means for you all not having to utilize bandwidth, utilize your software to be able to look, and then you can select the individual tab that you wish. This is very similar with one more click as opposed as using the jump to go to your scanned documents by selecting screen 601 or 602, which of course would take you directly to. If I do 602, it would take me directly to my PDF files. Because the screens are numbered, jump and type in the screen number, but in images, it would then show our pictures. So when we look at that again, if I come from job costs and I click on my media, instead of loading all of my images, it will basically tell me, click on the one I want, and I select images, and now I have my photos. So let's talk about a little bit of the things that look different now in the system as well. One of the things that you'll notice is that we now have an image category. When we drop down that image category, it will provide a selection. The video, the YouTube will give you a direction as to how to set all of these up, but I just provided a few. Visual damage photographs, repair planning photos, paint, mechanical drop-off, delivery. I just put a few in as examples, and I can select that, and it would show that particular photo as it applies to the category that I have selected for that particular vehicle. So if I drop off, I have 2 photos in. If I go back to my visual damage, I have 1. And if I come back to my uncategorized, I have them all. So what that would allow you to do is an opportunity to categorize your photographs for reference, and it could even be done, a couple of shops that are utilizing it. The way that they're doing it is that a single individual can take multiple photographs and be able to place them into categories, or add them into Text Central and place them into categories to bring to the attention of the writer or the CSR to show them what they just took, as opposed to 40 photographs now have 43 photographs, what was the newest and the freshest. And the way that that's done is I can select the photo that I wish to work with, I right-click, and here it opens up the window, and of course, used in production, most of us that are doing images are familiar, and I can add, but here where it says copy, I would copy to the category, and it would open that up. I would select the category I wish to work with, and would select OK. And it will give me an image copy. So if you notice, even though I would move from location to location inside my descriptions, and would be looking at these different images, I can always go back to uncategorize because all of the photos are there. So in addition to that, when we look at this, if we basically would do an open, and now I did a double left click, it opens up my particular window, as you can see. But one of the new features, if I wanted more detailed information, say in these areas that you're looking, I'll go slowly on my mouse click, but if you look toward the front bumper, you'll see kind of a target. And that target would allow me to left click and hold, and I open up a window, and you can see it kind of creating an outline, and I let go, and it will automatically zoom to that location where the image was located inside my left click. So I'm going to do a right click and go back to the standard view. I'm going to continue to right click, which then shrinks my image. I think it's a 5% decrease each time I do a left click. So again, to show you one of the benefits is it gives us the ability to be able to left click, select the area around the headlight, and let go, and it will open it up. And so what we would be looking at is that is going to provide you with some information and ability to be able to right-click to decrease, left-click to zoom to save you some time and being able to center the photograph, as well as you can use your scrolling key on your mouse to increase and decrease. So a number of really good features inside that particular piece, and there are some others that we'll mention inside Text Central that helps to speed the access of what's available. Now, there are also some items that have happened concerning image loading that is allowing it to load substantially quicker in the system for you. Some of the other items, I'll just briefly go down as we speak later on to cover them, are items inside of Text Central concerning availability of barcodes and some more specific items that we'll talk about more in our webinars concerning production management as well as parts management. So from a real usage perspective, this gives us the ability to work within each of the particular areas as we move through and looking at our scanned documents. You'll notice that our scanned documents have categories, and we would left click. We can have invoices and tow bills. And you'll notice that as we move into the PDFs, we can have the PDF files, and you can have customer documents, insurance documents, and internal documents as an example. So basically what we're offering is the ability for you to actually create inside of Summit a file folder that allows you to more quickly and easily find documents. Most commonly used that we find are the fact that the scanned documents, you can separate tow bills, separate invoices, as well as in imaging to be able to categorize them in a particular area. So let's go up to the top and talk about a few items, and these are ones that have been in Summit for a while, but are the most commonly I won't say misused, but commonly missed in their utilization. So I want to touch on some things and make sure that everyone remembers that inside of Summit Mail, I'm on my upper header in the upper left-hand corner, that you'll basically see that my cursor is selecting the envelope and I left click. If there are times that people will uncheck this box, And if you uncheck this box, it will not save the note into the repair order. The advantage of saving it into the repair order is we can utilize the inter-office email to send an email to someone within our organization, and I usually go in here and put the customer's name in the subject just to make it easier, and put a little note that we can recognize and hit save, because now I've sent a notification or a task out to one of my employees, and it will show up in their email so that they can see it inside Summit, that they know that they need to do it, but it is also provided the ability inside of job history for it to reference, and you'll notice that this note is right here that I just posted. So the desire is for people to remember, save yourself some time, utilize Summit to speak inside the repair order to your staff members specifically about that repair order, because it will make it faster and easier to track that within an individual repair order. So, other items that we're going to move across those that right now is getting to be a little unusual. I'm just going to click on another repair order, and going to be more and more commonly used, but is unusual that people remember. Because if I go to my admin right now and select admin on this particular repair order, you'll notice that I have some information listed in this particular repair order. And I also, if I go back in and I'll pick, Lord Douglas here, and I'll go to my admin, you'll notice that I have my admin information completed. It's a click to get in there, and if you notice, there isn't anything that I can do, quote unquote, with this particular screen. But if I were to be in jobs and know that I need to contact an individual at this time, watch that when I go up here to the business card quick contact and left click, you will notice that everything that was populated inside that admin field is now carried over into my quick contact information. I have an unverified rental, I have my insurance company email information, I have my SMS text portion, as well as my email address, as well as all of my telephone numbers. So by working with your staff to get them to know the population of admin into the correct fields and utilizing the cell phone and SMS text, I'll show you that again here in just a second, will allow you to be able to utilize the quick contact button to go to here, which you'll notice I have a finger as opposed to just a regular cursor. So if I left click on that, it will open up the field and I can send a text message to the individual from here. Now remember, it's a text, it's short and simple, but you can utilize this as part of the communication process. And how we populate that field is inside of the admin of this particular repair order. You will notice that when this cell number is completed, it will allow you to use this drop-down and select the cell phone carrier. Cell phone number field is completed. Left click on the envelope opens up the cell information and allows you to select the carrier that will then populate the appropriate field for you to send SMS text. And in some of your markets where you do have a lot of pay-as-you-go phones, you normally might not find that particular vendor in the drop-down, but if you investigate who the service is provided by, you can usually find within the listing here the correct contacts. And again, it's not a perfect world. You can't pick all 500 carriers, but you normally can find who is providing the service and they're satisfactory. So, in that communication, you will notice that we have communication listed here. That is where it is referencing contact via here. So the desire is to save yourself clicks, have your staff members know and remember that they can utilize Summit as the repository of all information about the repair order, which will allow them to be able to use it more effectively. So, for example, please remember that if I select the repair order, find the repair order, and you can use the search, which is escape or backspace to find it, would allow us to go here and see contact via cell phone. All I have to do is click on the quick contact, and I've got the cell phone number to be able to make my outgoing telephone call. without having to go to the various button pushes to get internal. I can see that contact information just by a left click on the quick contact. So let's look at the job history notes real quick. Something that many of you, may not remember, and I, having used the system for a long period of time, was really frustrated the fact when I found out that it would do this, because it's a really, really nice feature, is that as you know, when you post a payment into the notes, it will populate the note that a payment has been received. So, what I tried to, was looking at, which was interesting, is that if I wanted to put delivery notes in a file, for example, I can utilize the upper portion of the screen, and it is something that is personal preference, but I'm finding really nice success of having a customer actually utilize the upper notes so that it puts a date time stamp in chronological order of all of the system-generated notes, making it very easy to follow and keeping it very short, while utilizing the lower left-click expanded notes to put the longer, more detailed information in. What that does is allow the upper to have a natural, fast flow when someone's troubleshooting or looking to find quick answers. They can get it in chronological order very quickly, as opposed to going back and forth between the two screens to see what the system generated versus where the notes are. One of the things that's great is I just do a new, and I'm going to then drop down, and I'm going to change this AR note to my pre-close or pickup. Something as simple as I could say, for example, the ticket matches at 3228.52. Customer has no deductible. Need to correct the original check, sub from Bob. Okay, and so I select save. So what I've done is I've placed in chronological order a note in the AR category, which could then be your standardization of where you can put your closing notes. This is something that we will normally talk about in accounting and some more on the administration. For those of you as users, this is also a location which, when you place that note in throughout the pre-closing process and balancing and matching of your ticket through the repair order, it provides an audit trail that's not going to be able to be modified at time of delivery, so that you can then have a little more of a lockdown of your deposit, because they're going to have notes in the file that says what's expected to be paid by the customer. And if you were to have a challenge at your front desk that someone may or may not be trying to, take cash correctly or credit cards, for not full amounts, those kind of weird things, that would prevent them from having the ease of doing that, because now we have it in the file. But watch this. I've highlighted this repair order, I switch, I go to my AR, I double-click my AR and open up my AR where I would post my payment, and you'll notice that my note is in my payment note screen. So just as posting a payment into the repair order here will populate the note field, I can populate the note field by the push pins, which then allows me to have an audit trail at time of delivery, because when I go to push my payment, it says it's there. Some may not even recognize that here, looking at the calculation, just reinforcing that the closing notes are a benefit to accounting as well as to each other, to know that the ticket is balanced and matched. So, another item that is very common for us to for me to hear at least, is I need visual cues inside of Summit. Well, it's interesting that I've had long-time users, ones that I would consider to be very advanced users of the system in some areas, are saying, well, I need to be able to sort my screen. Why can't I sort my screen or look at cars that are late or overdue? Well, we know that the dashboard is able for us to left-click, and it will tell us how many vehicles are to be delivered or late, and I can left-click, and it will show me that these two are late, the ones that are in red, and these two are due to be delivered. But also, in looking at this screen, you'll notice that I have colors in the production. We'll discuss more of that about the production process, and each of us, as myself or the BDM, can assist you in doing actual process mapping to get good, sound, linear process, PCEs if you're Exxon Nobel, Greenbelt if you're using, if you're looking at, from a PPG approach, Sherwin-Williams' approach of the lead, you're all looking at having a linear flow of our process. If we label those correctly, we can then actually highlight them in colors to identify that, my example, green means that we are producing body labor. If we are in blue, that means that we have the responsibility of the writers to perform either an audit function or not, in this instance, to prepare the paperwork for supplement presentation. So the visual cues as to where it is in production planning can be duplicated in colors, as opposed to just having a different color for every department. Have the type of production that is being applied utilizing those colors. We also look, if we go here, this is an area that some of us forget. I will admit it as a user, I didn't even use it as much as I should have, is that if I go to left click, I'm at the top of the screen, all the way up in the header, left click, you'll notice that the drop down appears and allows me to select tomorrow. And now I have vehicles that are today, and earlier, as well as tomorrow, as scheduled out. I left click and drop to 2 days out. You'll notice I add a few more, and you notice if I drop again and go 4 days out, I add 4 more. Or I go back to my all dates and I have all of my repair orders in. So to say that Summit doesn't have a visual cue is a little misleading, because it has great visual cues for production status, as well as very easily and readily found items to identify what do you want to work with. So if you want to know what is going out, what is either late, going out today, or tomorrow, so you can see where your focus is, you just select tomorrow, and that is your focus. I'm working my files solely under my name, which is up here on my upper left where it says estimator name. I can right click, and you'll notify that you'll see that it says my files only, and that's what I'm working under. Or show all files would be the entire shop. So my database is a little old. It's easier for me to keep up with my 15 files or so, the 20 files that are in my name. So in that visual cue, we'll look at some other items. We'll quickly go over to production. We move over into production and looking at it. The visual cues, you'll notice I still have my all dates here at the top. I can left click and drop down, and you can see that I can select the same sort, but in addition to that, once I select that, I can then utilize in what order do I want this screen, what order do I want these vehicles to present themselves. I can do it in RO order scheduled out, and you'll see the various in your look, so I can go based on scheduled out dates through tomorrow, or I could look by department, or by RO. So think of Summit as the visual cues are the quick and easy ability to sort and look at the data that you wish to work with at that given time. Because why print some historical document that's going to change as soon as your body technician or somebody else in the office moves the status? And that makes a really big difference as to what happens. So let's go back and glance here, which my screen has colors on it, as I stated here. But you'll notice I also have a color here, a color here, and a color here. This one's a little harder to see because it's kind of a light green depending upon your monitor. So we have yellow, red, and green. We can touch quickly. Yellow. Yellow means that we've identified that by utilizing a feature inside of Summit that by going to the admin and into the vehicle, which is the 201 screen, we have selected this check mark which says additional parts and labor entry required, which then is that by checking that box and selecting save, that is what turns the repair order yellow. So customers have seen use that in multiple ways, but it was originally designed to say, yes, there's additional parts and labor supplement on this vehicle. It's highlighted. As soon as it's completed, we go to admin. And we can even use the jump and go to 201, but we uncheck it, we hit save, and we go back, and it no longer is yellow. So how we utilize that again real quick is we basically, I go here, do the jump, 201, hit enter, I go to this section, I select additional parts, hit save, and now I've highlighted it. Now, red. For those of you that don't know, most of you do, it's total loss. We change that to a total loss inside the line items. If you need any additional help, that'll be something will be a webinar or a video for you to review. And this is green here in the total column, and that is because payments have been paid in full, and it's green. And that basically you can verify that by selecting here, going to your AR, and you'll see that we have a zero balance. So in our production screen, now let's look at some of the colors, and this is something for those of you who are striving harder and harder to keep your dates because you're utilizing status on demand as a communication to the customer. Let's look at what we have available to us already inside of Summit to confirm that the status of our vehicles within the production view. If you'll notice, and look closely, I'm going to basically change my order, and I'm going to go based upon the scheduled out dates, and we can look at the scheduled out dates as my order. Look down the left-hand side where my cursor is at the dates. You'll notice that my two late dates are my red. My green dates are my dates that are today. My yellow means that I'm coming up and getting closer, which are my tomorrow's delivery. And my blue goes back to those are the dates that are outside of that today, tomorrow, and 3 days now. 2 days now. So in looking for visual cues inside the system, it's giving you warnings and giving you visuals as long as you pay attention to what's on the particular screen. And the color codes are great. For here, you'll see that these are the ones that are getting close to being overdue. Green are the ones that are due for today. So it gives you an opportunity to be able to stay ahead of the curve in looking at your vehicle. So now, let's look a little more. I'm going to go ahead and select this Lord Douglas again, and I did a left click to highlight it. I'm going to go to right click. Inside this right click, I'm going to move into looking at a little more information, and you'll see that there are a number of different ones. The couple I'm going to touch on now is a left click for department cycle times, a correct layout and process-driven production flow with no vehicle ever moving backwards. It's going to create good cycle time dates. And you'll notice that it took me 268 days to reassemble the vehicle, which usually means we had a parts issue. Just kidding. As I said, my database is stale. It gives you some numbers and some ideas. But you also have the opportunity to do a right click and configure your production view. And the SIP that is listed here is basically defaulting to sales, labor, throughput, or we can hide it entirely. And if you notice these hide upper or lowers, if you believe that the screen is busier than you want for whatever reason, you could just select it and change, and it would either hide the lower or the upper of your particular production views. So please, be careful with utilizing that, because I believe that each of the individual's uppers and lowers are very powerful tools in which it would work. So now that we've gone through all the colors, let's look at a few of the newer items that's making 734 look a little different than you're used to, so that you can actually pay close attention to it. If you'll notice, we have estimate number listed up here for those of you that are utilizing exporting photos out of Summit into your estimated system, make a fast file structure. When we now look here, you will see that it's year, make, and model, as opposed to where if you had a long color, you were cut off on your information that was there. When we look at the information here in the header as well, you'll notice under current tech it's underlined. Please play with some of these and see what they do, because if you do a right click on the current tech, you can do a left click and print a job worksheet. That can save you a few clicks as opposed to going into the RO pack, unselecting all your ones that are already pre-stored, all of that in this screen, or moving to the production view and finding it all the ways that you get it now. If you go up current tech, right click, print job worksheet, I consider it to be one of the fastest ways to be able to print a worksheet from this particular screen. If we go forward from here and do a right click and go to Tech Center Status,
it will pop up and say that you want to do this because it'll take a few minutes. On mine, it shouldn't be that long. What this is, for those of you that are hourly and or you have staff clocking in and clocking out of Summit as part of their timesheet, this is the fastest way to get the current status. And you'll notice that it does technicians as well as office staff, and it would reference either not clocked in or the repair order that they're clocked in under, as well as are they clocked in on multiple repairs. So in doing that, it again is under current tech. It's right-click and it's tech center status. And it brings up the ability to be able to then look at your particular technicians. In that same right click, if the technician filter, we'll get into that. Speak of when we get into more information, when we speak about the production management portion, would be there. So look at each of these pieces of the process, and there's underlines. Please look. Images. Remember, we were looking at images previously. If we do a right click, we have view images, view scan document. Each of these will open up a separate driver for you. That driver is able to be utilized separately from Summit and from your estimating system. So if you do a right click, view scan documents or view images, this can remain open in front of your estimate and in front of Summit, allowing you to use photographs to write your estimate or work within your invoices when you're looking to balance or match the ticket. Very important feature, and if you have moved to having the second monitor, it is a huge tool to be able to have this up and running while your estimates and Summit are working as well. Remember that you also can left-click and go to digital packaging. Full advantage of what is the real benefit available to you in the ability to use Summit as a sole method of storing all of your documents is it will actually allow you to store images, scan documents, PDF files, as well as audio and video inside a single repair order and allow you to group them and send them out as a single package with your email. There'll be videos on that in more detail, as well as it will be covered a great deal as we discuss going paperless and other webinars. So when we are looking further at the imaging and the digital packaging, if you scoot over across your head or more, something for you guys to remember, we now, if you notice, it goes to a hand at your original promise date at the top in the middle. We originally did not have the ability to change the original promise date without going into the reports. Now we can left-click, it opens up the original promise date, and I would highly recommend you as a group begin utilizing original promise dates for the times that you're communicating to the customer and using scheduled out dates of those you are using to manage your production. A very powerful tool that we'll get into more discussions when we look at some of the production management portions later webinars as well as videos. If you'll notice now, we have the ability here, and it's been there for a while, utilizing your sub-departments. For those of you that may not have made the change, it is a right-click, assign sub-department, which opens up your sub-departments. We can talk a little more about how they are utilized, especially with the sub-department filter. One thing that you'll notice is new is here. The contact, we spoke on that earlier, which is the contact via the cell phone. Plus, if you look, we have in the notes, it basically allows, there was requests from our customers to do what they really wanted was to be able to quickly have someplace else to put information that was not inside the warning flag. If any of you have worked with me, you hear me always coach. A warning flag is exactly that. It is a warning flag that is not a check in a file. It is a warning flag of something unique and very specific about that vehicle that's not normal production. And that's where the note now gives you the opportunity to do both. So when we moved our way through and looked at the header, the one thing that you will want to remember is that you notice here that it's sublets. This is a great tool. I notice it's 1, and it says number of sublets. If you left-click on that sublet, it will open up your sublet and show what are the ones that are outstanding. So please remember, it's one piece of the puzzle that you do not have to go into the part screen to look at, and that's very powerful For customers who are saying, well, gosh, it's really hard for me to figure out my sublets, which do I have owed? We'll talk about a lot of that in our production discussions, webinars, as well as our videos. But by left-clicking here, it will open up in each individual RO and show you what it is without you having to go to a very full part screen in some instances to find that information. So, when we look a little further and look at our right-click items, we've already talked about some right clicks inside of our production view, but remember, inside this screen, it's a very powerful tool, fun thing to use. We now have a quick menu. We have reports, which we've become very familiar with to create the RO pack. The analysis portion. Please remember that you have the ability to analyze ROs, average severity, and total dollars with ranges, as well as you have the ability to right-click, go to analysis, and do a labor analysis, which will show you your labor types, your departments, and your hours, showing percentages here. Consider this, with a properly designed production department and the proper process controls in place, you have the ability to begin to manage and understand what is the accurate and correct bell curve for your organization to reach the peak performance and the peak values of moving your vehicle through production. And when I say bell curve, it is where within your repair planning, authorization, waiting on your parts and available labor, producing the labor, and then reassembling the labor and getting it finished and back out the door, what does that natural curve look like where you are the most efficient and your staff is the most efficient? So there's a lot of other items that we could go into on the right click in the parts screen, as well as Trent's production managing. We will have our own videos discussing both parts from a frontline user as a webinar, as well as parts and controls within the business rules for owner-operators and how they wish to use it. We also will be covering more specific content and items on that. One of the other big features that is available and is within the system with the new 734 is basically set up and designed to be able to assist our QuickBooks users. Because I know that we probably have most people here are QuickBooks users, but I didn't want to get into detail. We will have videos as well as possibly an additional webinar concerning the new QuickBooks features. I just want to touch on that and let everybody know that is a QuickBooks user. With the appropriate setup, we have the ability within 734 to be able to use QuickBooks Direct Interface. To tell you a little bit, I learned from experience working with an auditor, an accountant who was doing a forensic audit with one of our customers, and I was called in to perform more detailed auditing from a Summit perspective as well as their QuickBooks side, and learned a great deal about the IIF method of sending over data. Within that IIF file, it has been known to be a challenge at times, even though everything is correct, to QuickBooks actually not receive that particular file. Even though all the data in the RO is correct, just because of the importing format and the way that it works, there are times that it presents challenges where the QuickBooks Direct Interface is a much more consistent and stable method of doing the exporting process. It also exports all at the same time. Instead of doing multiple transactions for each of your IIFs, for accounts receivable, accounts payable, etc., and you do payments, etc., it will handle it all as a single transaction. Also, some very good time-saving features have been added concerning that integration as far as it relates to the other pieces. We do have business work integration occurring concerning business work payments. And that also, we look at some items inside of Tech Central, which we will cover much more detail in production, just to tell you some excitement about the Tech Central function. It's actually going to be able to, they went back to some more vivid covers, red on black as opposed to the grays. Technicians now have the ability to type messages and send back to the office as opposed to using only stored messages, which was a huge request from a lot of our customers. We also have made some corrections to ensure that the QC checklist items that are being completed from Tech Central are going to put in the correct technician's name when those are completed by that technician, as opposed to just referencing they came from Tech Central. We've done some items that I showed you within the production view, but inside the accounting module, there's the view non-exported only is checked by default, so that makes it a little faster and easier for those that are posting. And some other items that we'll get into more detail. So I'm right at the 45-minute mark. We've covered a lot. But what I really want to do is thank you all for participating. Today was a highlight of those items. We didn't get into functionality as much as we got into those features and items that are going to help you to save clicks, help you to identify and understand information.
Okay, let me show you how to email a customer. We're going to go ahead and select the customer's name, and we're going to go into admin to make sure that we have everything set. So in the cell phone area, we need to make sure that we have a cell phone number. More important, when we go down, we need to ask the customer what cell phone provider. In this case, I'm with AT&T, and I'm going to hit select, and I'll have to have save. So down in this area for text messaging, we're going to need to make sure that we have the correct carrier. As you can see, I've got my email address. Now, it's important that you understand that we need to have our Microsoft Outlook running in the tray at the bottom. That's how our email goes out through a small program called QMAP. Attaches it to your Outlook. So in order to send a text message, I will right-click, go down to Send Text, and here's my message. Of course, I would put my subject and my message to the customer. If you have this check mark here in saving in expanded notes, as soon as I hit save, that also is the send, you're going to have a window that pops up from QMAP that'll say log in. So obviously you're going to log in, and then it's going to ask you to send if you want to send. You go ahead and send. As soon as you send, it goes right out of your Outlook, and at this time, I'm just going to hit cancel, but I want you to understand that, see here in the expanded notes, as soon as you send that message, there's no need to go to the expanded notes and then type a note that you had went ahead and communicated with the customer. It's automatically going to go here, and all you would do is go in and save it. So that being said, that's how easy it is to email and text message a customer. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and show you how to open a estimate and turn it into an open repair order. So in the estimate tab, that's where you're going to find all your estimates. Estimates are opportunities to sell a job. We're going to highlight on the job I just sold. I'm going to highlight and drag and drop to open ROs. Now I want to open this RO. As you can see, the asterisks, the red asterisks, are mandatory fields that's going to be necessary to fill in prior to opening the repair order. So this is going to help us gather information about the customer, or have all of the same information in our management system that we want in the management system that we may have missed in writing the estimate. So in this being said, I'm going to go ahead and my source of information on how I acquired the estimate, and this one here is going to be a referral. On my phone number, I'm going to go ahead and put a phone number in. And from the drop-down menu, I'm going to select the insurance company. From the claim number, where I have a mandatory field, I have to put something in that field as well. So we have a claim number. And it's important where the estimator will come over from the estimating system, but you really want to take it from the drop-down menu of the estimator. We have an opportunity to put the CSR's name in, and we're going to go ahead and select the CSR. The rest of the mandatory fields are filled in and transferred over from the estimating system. We have an opportunity to select whether the car is drivable or non-drivable. Also, we're going to select whether or not the person is in a rental. Here under the scheduling, you can see how many labor hours, how many dollars, insurance company, and the insurance company's allocation per labor hour per day is already preset according to the insurance company that we had selected. We've also went ahead and defined what type of repair this is, and we have the opportunity that we can change that definition if we feel that it's necessary and hasn't selected it correctly. Then I'm going to go to next, and next is going to take me into my schedule. And what I'll do is I'm going to double click on the date. As you can see, the date will give us a date in and date out according to what our insurance company had recommended per labor hours per day. In this case it was 4, which gives us a due in and due out date according to our total labor hours on the estimate. Now we're going to go to next, and in this area here we're just going to bypass, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the vehicle in. So in this case the vehicle is scheduled in, and this gives us an opportunity to highlight a method of how the customer would like to be communicated with. In this case it's going to be by cell phone, and the other is how frequently. We're going to go ahead and do a follow-up call as the vehicle goes through the production steps. From there we're going to hit finish and close, and at that time we will have opened a repair order in the scheduled in field. Under the open ROs you will find the person's repair order has just opened. Now from that area you want to go in and immediately into the line items, and you want to scrub the line items. And let me show you why I mean this. Here we have hazardous waste that come over, flex additive, cover car, and they have no type. Anything that's associated with a dollar value has to have a type. If your scrubber is built correctly, you would be able to go in, hit scrub, right click, and execute the scrub engine. What's going to happen is if that's built correctly, it's going to give us an opportunity to put everything in the correct order where you want that type in accounting. In this case, in flex additive, I certainly don't want that in sublet, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that as shop supplies. Now I can go back and correct it in my scrubber to where each time it sees flex additive written exactly this way, it's going to default it to shop supplies. That should do. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do a overall parts discount. So I'm going to highlight the estimate that I want to reflect the discount on. I'm going to go to the line items, and as you can see we have parts on the estimate. I'm going to go to auto, and in the auto area you're going to see apply overall discount. We're going to take a 20% discount on the new parts, which are taxable, and we're going to hit save. At that time I've just brought in a parts discount on my new parts for $65.57, and I'm going to recalculate it this time, and now I've reflected my parts discount. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and show you how to print a credit return memo or credit return slip. On this trunk lid, I want to print a credit return memo. So I'm going to go up to the tab that's credit return, and I'm going to go to print. Now I have my credit return. I'm going to hit save, and in this box you're going to check mark credit return memo, run report, and you'll be able to see that this is your memo. So you can print it, email, fax it, print 2 copies, one with a par, possibly one with your file, and that should do for our credit return memo. Okay, I want to show you how to transfer cost and why this happens. I had received parts, and on the parts order there was an additional emblem that came in that was needed for the vehicle. I went ahead and created a 99 line by adding that part in so that I could receive my parts, so my invoice and my parts would be able to match on our receive. So at this time I went ahead and I put the emblem on my estimate and synchronize it to Summit. So I need to transfer cost from the emblem that I received to the emblem that I have no cost associated with that I've just put on my estimate. So this time I'm going to check mark the box that I want to transfer cost, and I'm going to highlight the emblem that I'm going to transfer cost up to. So at this time I'm going to hit transfer, and it says, do I want to transfer the cost to the emblem? See, this emblem here has a cost of $34.85 to the emblem that I had put on my estimate that has no cost associated with it at this time. And I'm going to hit yes. At this time it says, cost is transferred successfully. Do you want to delete the old line? Yes, I want to delete the old line. Now I've transferred the cost to the emblem on line 6, and I've removed the 99 line that I've added, giving me just the cost associated with this emblem. There's no longer an additional cost on this invoice or on this estimate of repair or parts that's not associated with line items. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do a credit return. What you're going to do is we're going to return this trunk lid. So I'm going to tag the box, I'm going to highlight, click on, left mouse click, and drag and drop the part to credit return. Now, you have an opportunity to return only, return and reorder, receive credit, or cancel. In this case, I'm going to return and I'm going to reorder the part. So it asks me, do you want to return and reorder? Yes. Now, this box is going to come up and ask you, why are we returning the part? So I'm going to return it because it's a damaged part. If the part has been picked up from your location and taken back with the vendor, you're going to put a check mark in the box that says the part has been picked up. In this case, I'm going to deselect because the part is still here. I'm going to go to Save, and it's going to return and reorder. As you can see, I have a trunk lid returned. The part is still on my property, and at this time I've reordered, and now I have it a status as on order. Now if the part is picked up later, you will check mark the box so you can show that it has been returned. If it's been returned, I'm going to show you how to relieve it from your statement. You're going to put a check mark in the box. You're going to drag and drop it back up to credit return. Now at this time I'm going to receive the credit from the vendor. So I'm going to hit OK, and this is going to give me my credit. I can scan the credit return in, so it will appear in the Media tab under Scan Documents. In this case, I'm going to now hit Save. Okay, we're going to go ahead and receive parts in Summit. So what I like to do is, again, I like to go up and I like to select new parts, and it'll give me a list of just the new parts. So now I have a list of just the new parts. What I'd like to go ahead and do is I'm going to right click and show part tag totals. So let me go ahead and give you an idea what the part tag totals are. Any parts that I tag will show up as a cost and a list price of each part. As I tag the next part, I can go up and I can validate that the cost and list is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and tag all of the parts and make sure that it matches what my invoice says from the vendor. In this case, if it's not correct, I will go in and I can adjust the list price by highlighting in the box, and at this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the cost. So I've changed the cost by typing the figure in, and I can go up and I can calculate. Now it matches what my cost is. But in this case, I want to go ahead and change the list price. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to type in the correct list price. Now, Once I do that and click out of the box, you can see that the list price has changed and it's turned green in the adjusted list. This will give an indication on the line items to the estimator that there's been a change on the list price. This will give him an opportunity to go ahead prior to closing the repair order to change the part price on his estimate and resynchronize the change estimate in the estimating system to reflect the actual true list price that we should be charging for the part. Now I have all the parts tagged that I have on order. I'm going to grab one, left click with the mouse, hold down, and I'm going to drop to receive. Now once the receive comes up, you're going to see a box that's going to give you direction. One, I need the invoice number in the invoice field here that matches the invoice from the vendor, and you see the calculated cost at the bottom. That should match the invoice that we have in our hand from the vendor. At that time, I'm going to put the amount in, and that amount's $738.12. Now I can scan at this time the invoice in so that it will drop into the medium, so we will have the information in underscanned documents. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit OK after the scanning, and I'm going to receive the parts. As you can see, the parts come up in green, and it'll show all of the received parts, the date, and the vendor information. Now we have one part that's still on order from an aftermarket source, and when that invoice comes in with the parts, I can go ahead and receive my aftermarket parts at that time. This should conclude the parts order. Okay, we're going to go over ordering parts in Summit. The first thing we're going to do in the Parts tab is where you're going to order your parts. And what I like to do is I'll go up and I'll sort just the new parts. So this gives us just an opportunity to see just the new parts. At that time, you can hit tag and tag all parts, or you can go down and tag the selected parts that you're going to order from the vendor. So at that time, you're going to grab one and drag and drop by holding the left mouse button down and drop the parts on order. We'll drag and drop. Now, the box comes up and it asks you what vendor are you going to order from. In this case, we're going to order from Lamb Chevrolet. The date is always going to default to the date that you're ordering the parts. Now, it will default to the date within 24 hours receiving. If you're not going to receive the parts in 24 hours, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to highlight the date that we want it to come in. We can go ahead and set the priority. In this case, we're going to leave it as low. You can put a note in for the parts person that's going to receive the parts order, and in this case, we'll go ahead and ask if they can price match. By having the check mark in the box here, where you see print, it's going to go ahead and bring the next screen up. Now I'm going to hit OK. And here's your parts order. If the parts order doesn't come up, you would highlight the box and run report. You can fax, email, print, or turn it into a PDF so that you can attach it to an email. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and print. I can close the box. Now I've printed a parts order, and as you can see, I have the parts on order. Now, if I want to go ahead and do aftermarket parts, I can do the same thing. Select the aftermarket, tag, drag, and drop. Now I can order those parts from another vendor. Same procedure, hit OK, and again you can